Today on Celebrating the Show Online, we are heading to the Art and Craft Pavilion and meeting with Anne-Marie Primmer. Now, Anne-Marie gets ready for the Royal Melbourne Show in a way that's a little different to you and I. She will spend months getting ready to enter her exhibits, and she has been known to have more than 80 entries in the Art and Craft Pavilion at any one time. Her efforts have made her name familiar with the show, and she has won the prestigious McRobert Memorial Award for the most successful cookery exhibitor, not once, not twice, but 13 times. Anne-Marie Primmer, it goes without saying you must be missing the show. What are you missing the most?
Oh, Lyndsey, I'm missing everything, every facet of the show. We received the schedule that every exhibitor receives or downloads, and I was marking it all off and getting quite excited. And then the show had to make the agonising decision if they were going to go ahead or not. I'm indebted to them that they made it early because I hadn't made as many things as I would have prior to the show. I generally start about May, and that's getting the preserves underway and fruitcakes and plum puddings. So it's been an interesting journey this year. I feel very strange. I keep going to the cupboard and thinking, oh, I need that tin to make the orange cake or the chocolate cake. And I think, oh, I don't need that tin anymore. I'll have to put it away. So I'm feeling at a bit of a loss. I suppose in a way I've been making some preserves and dropping them off on people's doorsteps just because I need my show fix.
Yes. Oh, at least someone's benefiting from all your beautiful cooking. Tell me about that passion for baking. Where did it all start, and how do you keep ensuring you're on top of your game?
How it all started, I suppose, like with many people, it goes back my grandmother who lived opposite with the wood stove. She'd put her hand in the stove and she'd go, oh, that's warm enough to make an apple pie. And we'd sit and watch her just out of the blue prepare the pastry and cut up the apples off the tree out the back. And I loved watching her cook. My father was a really good cook, but he was more savoury. And because you've got cooks around, you don't tend to do any. So it was when I became an adult and moved up to Eltham that I started to enjoy the value of cooking as well as eating the food. And my mother entered the Whittlesea show because she believed in community uh, participation, I suppose. And she used to put her horticulture, her roses and irises in. And one year Mum said to me, why don't you enter the show? And I said, what would I make? And or I don't have any flowers at the time. And she said, oh, you make a nice nut loaf. And I thought, oh, all right. So I made it and I was working full time. So Mum and Dad delivered it to the showground. And when I went on the Saturday to see how Mum went with her flowers, she reminded me that my nut loaf was there as well. And we went over and I'd won. And that was the beginning of my association with a show. And I just enjoyed the whole essence of entering, putting it in, the pleasure it brings the public. That I get a lot of pleasure out of, that people enjoy looking at all the exhibitors' works, not only mine. And the stewards at the Whittlesea show encouraged me as well as my family to enter the Royal show. So that first year was the nut loaf and a hooked rug, woolen hooked rug, and I won with both of those. And that sort of catapulted me to nearly, 45 odd years later, entering so many exhibits. I should cull a few back, but I don't. I just keep adding.
Your repertoire gets bigger and bigger every year. Is
Oh,
it?
I wish they'd cull the show, the schedule a little bit, because I see a new entry and I go, oh, I can give that a try. But It's all good fun. It's
You've got a
really
fantastic disposition. Now, I'm going to take the selfish opportunity whilst I'm chatting to a 13-time McRobert Memorial Trophy winner, as someone who cannot bake to save themselves, to ask you, when it comes to something like a fruitcake, for instance, which is hotly contested when it comes to royal shows, what are some of the mistakes or oversights first timers make when they're making a fruitcake? What do they need to be aware of?
Probably the doyen of the fruitcakes is the Victorian Agricultural Society fruitcake. It's a rich fruitcake, it's not a boiled fruitcake. Read your schedule first, stick to the recipe. It is a set recipe, so you can't make any mistakes on that one. You've got all the ingredients. Line your tin very well. The judges want to see nice, sharp lines. We don't want to see a lot of scorching, so know your oven, know the temperatures, and get to know what is the ideal optimum temperature for your oven to bake the cake so you don't have scorch marks. I think one of the drawbacks that lets first-time exhibitors down is when they do take their fruitcake out of the oven, they turn it out of the tin and put it on a cake rack. One of the first things a judge will do is turn your fruitcake upside down, and if they see those cooling rack marks, you lose points. You don't want scorching, so you don't want the oven to be too hot that it's going to scorch your fruit and your cake. You want the even distribution of fruit. So when you put your fruit into your creamed mixture, you want it to be nice and even and not a lot of holes in your fruitcake. So pack it down well.
Well, Anne-Marie Primmer, I have to say, you've got my mouth watering now, and the 2021 show cannot come soon enough. I'm going to ask if you can put aside a few preserves for me. That's all right.
Well, I actually, up on the bench, I've got some preserves and the fruitcake. So I'll remember to put one or two aside for you, Lyndsey.
And we hope to see you take out your 14th McRobert Memorial Award at some point in the near future. It's been a joy to talk to you, and thanks so much for joining us for celebrating the show online.
Lyndsey, it's been a pleasure, and I wish everyone, all the entrants, all the very best. Everyone's been home with COVID, so they've practiced cooking. Now next year, join the show and be part of it. It's great.